So some differences between the EII and the IEI in Socionics. This is the INFj, INFp, respectively. Two types that often get confused for one another, because on a superficial, external level, they can seem a little bit alike. They're both rather introverted seeming types, kind of quiet, kind of going about their own business. They both can seem like they're very interested in people, very people focused, trying to get to know people and things like that. So they can be confused. Now, in the socionics world, there are some pretty noticeable differences. Your EII, Delta Quadra, is very much interested in people on a personal, one-on-one, intimate kind of level. They make very, very personal attachments to people or animals or things that they really deeply care about and like. And they want to support and help those people or things or causes personally, intimately. They themselves kind of getting involved to kind of do it. These are people that want to do it themselves, get involved. They're very humble about doing whatever little bit they can to help. They're not really interested in necessarily trying to champion and campaign for their cause. So they're perfectly fine just doing things on their own for themselves. They don't need anybody else to get involved. They don't need to get others in there. They don't need any of that stuff. They're not trying to create social movements, nothing like that. They don't mind if they're the only one that seems to care. They don't care if other people are not as interested or as passionate about these things or people as they are. The EII is also, again, usually very interested in minority, unheard of groups of people or things that seem to be forgotten and dismissed by society. They're also very open to unique people, different people, giving people a chance, really trying to understand how people view things. And again, on an intimate level. When I say people, I don't mean people as a group of people, but rather individuals, how that person over there kind of sees the world and how they feel about things and how they're approaching stuff, how that person over there feels and thinks about things, and that person. Very much a more intimate, case by case, individual by individual kind of approach. It's quite different. Now compare that to the IEIs. IEI is part of Beta Quadrant. This is a type that is much more interested in groups of people, social movements, more likely to be interested in political things, political movements, social causes, things that they think would be good for society as a whole, as a large organization. They're not as interested in the individual person and working for another individual. They're more interested in trying to get society or organizations to be more interested in solving problems for society. It's a much more of a social movement type of thing. IEIs are trying to get just generate more interest on where they think society should go or things that society could benefit from, things that will affect a wide range of people. And IEIs are also more interested in influence, being influential. They want their voice to be heard. They want to try to get their opinions and ideas out there. And they're usually happy to do that. They rarely want to be the person who's leading a campaign or the political figurehead. They're usually much more content to be a supporting role person, somebody who is helping to guide a campaign or to shape that campaign, to get their message out or make their message part of someone else's grand campaign. So they're better off being some kind of like a political strategist, or somebody else who's working part of the campaign behind the scenes. It doesn't have to be political. Of course, they might be interested in just a social movement of some kind, or maybe a business, an organization that's championing a certain cause, trying to work towards a cause and needs some PR like help, things like that. IEIs will do things like that. IEIs will may be interested in writing blogs or stories not stories, but blogs and books designed to get people to think about society or discuss where society should go. Maybe discuss a hypothetical society, something like that. Maybe talk about old societies, old history, ancient history type of things, and look at how that culture existed as a group, something like that. Might want to talk about abstract things like some philosophy type of stuff, and discussing how we as people could make ourselves better on a philosophical, spiritual kind of level, that sort of stuff. Back to the EII from Delta Quadra here, and you have somebody that, again, doesn't want to move people around, is not as focused on where society as a whole is going. They're more interested in where individuals are going. They're less inclined to do the spiritual leader type stuff. They're not really inclined to get involved in political campaigns. And if they do write books, they're more likely to be a fiction writer, where they can create characters and create stories showing these different kinds of characters doing things, living through things, suffering through things, seeing how those characters try to evolve and manage the challenges of their lives and so on. So you see that even in writing, the EIIs is much more focused on individuals navigating through the world, trying to do the best they can, whereas the IEIs is talking more philosophically about people in general, not a unique individual. Those are usually some major differences. Others in actual practice, the IEI Beta Quadra does have some SE. Now, they're not that great at it. They're usually kind of low energy and wish they had more fight in them, more energy to push for influence, to get things done more. But they do have some. And they do have FE. So they are a type that will try to fit in more, get along better with people, present themselves well, present themselves a certain kind of way that is acceptable to people, that's going to get them somewhere. And they are a type that is going to grind when they need to. They're not great at it, and they don't want to do it very much. But if you need to hustle, put in some hard work, meet deadlines, put some physical oomph into something, the IEI will try. And usually they'll get it done, but they're probably going to burn out pretty quickly. But they'll try, they'll do their best, they can grind for a little while, they can make it happen. And they'll try to get other people who are good at those things to help them out, to support, because they'll try to rally people to help them, rally a cause of people around them. They're good. It's the FE. Motivate other people to help me out, get together, let's do this together. Now compare that to the EII from Delta Quadrant, and you have somebody that really does not grind well. They're not interested in motivating other people to deal with stuff. They're going to try to handle it usually on their own, or maybe get that one friend, that one person to try to help them out, but they're not trying to rally people to help. They're also terrible at grinding. They're absolutely horrible. Because their SE is a vulnerable function, so they're really, really bad at working at a fast pace, trying to meet a deadline, trying to work under pressure, work on the clock, be very physical, and so on. So competition, it's not good for them at all. Certain jobs where time is a factor, it's an emergency situation, it's a competitive situation that's on the clock, or it's just, look, this task needs to be done and you got about 3 minutes and you got to move and you got to do it again, and so on. And there's pressure. They're usually not good at this. It stresses them out a lot. They get overwhelmed easily. It's a group of people that just, they feel overwhelmed by stuff. So they kind of need to work at their pace, which is usually kind of a slower pace, but it's their pace that they set that's more comfortable for them to operate, and so on. Take their time to kind of get things done as they can do it. So that's another difference you see with them. The IEI is not going to like all that grinding and working at fast pace either, but they will try. And they may kind of quietly, slowly burn out and try not to let anybody see it, but they will try, they'll make some efforts, they'll get somewhere with that. EIs don't. They just don't. Really terrible in that way. So those are all ways you can kind of tell the difference. If you're somebody who's wondering, am I this one, am I that one? Those examples should help differentiate. And if you have a friend or you have somebody around you that you're trying to figure out, you should see those too. Which person is trying to worry more about societal group things, group ideas and abstract ideas, and who is trying to deal more in personal relationships with people or things or so on. That's very, very deeply meaningful to them, and they are quietly trying to get this done on their own. Who seems like they're a little bit more willing to do what society asks of them and grind, who's not willing to grind, who wants to do things on their own pace, who just doesn't handle stress and pressure well at all. I mean, just not at all. Who is a lot more forgiving and open to different kinds of people with very different viewpoints, and they're very open and interested to hear about different people's personal experience with stuff, their personal intimate experience. Who's interested in that? That's an EII for you. Your IEI is less so. Who's looking at the world in abstract concepts? Archetypes, looking at the world in terms of archetypes. That's going to be an IEI. Your EII is not really looking at it in terms of archetypes. They can see that, they can understand it, but that's not how they're doing it. They're really approaching each person as a unique individual. So again, all things to help you out. Let me know what you think. Let me know if a lot of that resonated with you. If you want me to go into more, etc. As always. So like and subscribe.